I created a throwaway for this because even though my whole real life exploded in front of the neighborhood, most of it hasn't hit the internet. Yet. If Mom ever recognizes the details, I'm sure she'll come barging into the comments just like she barged into my house last month. But at this point, I honestly don't care. I need to unload, and I need the internet stranger jury to tell me whether the nuclear option I chose was justified. Spoiler, I don't regret a single second. First, the family map. I'm 33, single, and child-free by design. My name doesn't matter here, so call me Ray. My little sister, Melissa, 31, has 3 kids: Ava, 7, Jaden, 5, and Zoe, 3. Melissa gave birth to each of them mostly because she thought another baby would fix whatever was broken in her latest relationship. None of those relationships lasted longer than the diapers. Mom, actual name Judy, is 59, a retired elementary school secretary with a martyr complex the size of a small city. I own a modest 3-bed bungalow that I bought after grinding through double shifts as a paramedic for almost a decade. The house is my sanctuary. It's where I decompress from the nightmare calls, the overdoses, the endless parade of people who treat a flashing siren like their personal Uber. I have 2 cats, a vegetable garden, and a standing Friday night Dungeons & Dragons game with friends. It's not a flashy life, but it's mine, and it's under control. Something my childhood never was. Melissa's life, on the other hand, is an F5 tornado fueled by selfies, pyramid scheme, boss babe pitches, and whatever guy she met on Tinder that week. 3 months ago, she announced on Facebook that she was taking a spiritual sabbatical across the country with her soulmate Kai to find herself and pursue holistic crystal healing. Translation: she and dude number who even knows were driving to California in a beater van with no real plan except sunshine and Instagram clout. She left the kids with Mom and blocked half the family so no one could scold her in the comments. Mom freaked out, but only outwardly. Secretly, I think she was thrilled. She's always played the savior. Raising her grandkids would give her fresh material for her endless lectures about duty and sacrifice. But 2 weeks into Melissa's sabbatical, Mom realized toddlers aren't dolls and that a 7-year-old has homework she doesn't understand. Her arthritis flared, the kids caught RSV, and Ava accidentally shattered the ceramic urn holding Dad's ashes. Mom went from St. Judy of perpetual guilt trips to frantic Facebook rants about parenting in the end times. That's when she called me. I was eating leftover lasagna in front of the TV, gearing up for a night shift. She didn't say hello. She just launched into barking orders. You need to pick up your niece and nephews tomorrow morning and keep them indefinitely. I am exhausted. I haven't slept more than 2 hours in days. This is your responsibility, Raymond. I took a breath and did what we learned in therapy. Respond. Don't react. Mom, I love those kids, but I have a full-time emergency job with rotating shifts. I'm not equipped to become their guardian overnight. Wrong answer. She unleashed the classic weaponized silence, followed by a low growl. You selfish disgrace. Your father would be ashamed. I didn't rise to it. I simply said I couldn't take them and suggested she contact Melissa's deadbeat exes for support, or better yet, child services. Mom hung up on me. Cue the screaming voicemail barrage, the prophecy of family doom, the Facebook posts implying I was partying while innocent children suffered. My aunt started texting Bible verses. A cousin told me I'd rot in hell. Meanwhile, I kept working, sleeping, and dropping groceries at Mom's porch when I could. I wasn't abandoning anyone. I was just refusing to set myself on fire to keep Mom warm. Apparently, that wasn't dramatic enough for her. Everything detonated on a Tuesday after a 24-hour shift that ended with a fatal car crash. I staggered home at 8 a.m., dead on my feet. I'd kicked off my boots but hadn't even showered when tires screeched outside. Mom's old Subaru lurched into my driveway so fast she clipped my mailbox. She didn't knock. She stormed through the front door, which I'd stupidly left unlocked, and started shrieking my name like the house was on fire. I grabbed my phone and hit record out of pure reflex. Occupational hazard. Evidence matters. Good thing, because what followed was Broadway-level insanity. She marched into the living room, hair wild, eyes bloodshot, waving a crumpled copy of Dad's death certificate. The kids trailed behind her in rumpled pajamas, clutching backpacks. Zoe was crying. Ava looked like she hadn't slept. Jaden clung to a stuffed dinosaur missing an eye. Mom pointed at them as if presenting proof exhibit A. There. Look at what your precious freedom costs, Raymond. They have no one. Their mother is off whoring across America. Do you want them to end up in foster care? My head felt like wet cement, but I stayed calm. Mom, you can't just dump them here. I don't have child-sized beds or car seats or... She cut me off, voice cracking. Then you'll buy them. You have money. All those overtime hours. What good is your house if it's not a home for family? The kids watched us ping-pong words like a nightmare tennis match. I knelt to their level, softening my tone. Guys, I love you. Let's go sit in the kitchen and we'll figure things out, okay? I handed Ava the TV remote and told her she could put on cartoons. Mom wasn't having that. She grabbed my shoulder, hard. Don't coddle them. Make a decision. She was breathing so fast I worried she'd faint. You either take them today, or I'll tell every relative you're refusing to honor your father's memory. She waved the death certificate again like it was a holy writ. That was it. The exact moment something inside me clicked. I realized Mom didn't want a solution. She wanted a scapegoat. She'd decided her misery required an audience, and I was the only adult who hadn't capitulated. She needed me to bend so she could feel powerful. I straightened and met her eyes. Okay, here's my decision. Everyone is leaving my house right now. Her jaw dropped. You're heartless. Maybe, I said, calm as ice. But I'm also legally responsible for anyone under this roof. If you abandon them here, I'll call CPS within 5 minutes. She tried to speak, but I raised a hand. No more. Car, now. Shockingly, she listened. Maybe she saw the dead exhaustion in my face and recognized I wasn't bluffing. She herded the kids toward the door, muttering that Dad was spinning in his grave. Ava looked back, pleading silently. That cracked my heart, but I stayed firm. Boundaries mean nothing if you tear them down at the first guilt trip. They drove off, my mailbox dangling by a screw. I showered, cried under the hot water, and slept for 14 hours straight. When I woke up, the video of Mom's meltdown was already viral, because I posted it. Yeah, that's the revenge part. Let me explain. I didn't just upload raw footage to TikTok for clout. I edited out the kids' faces and bleeped identifying info. Then I stitched in a commentary explaining the situation, the 6 voicemails, and screenshots of her Facebook rants. I blurred her profile picture but left her words. I titled it, "My Mom Thinks My House is Her Daycare." I tagged #caretaker. Burnout, #parentification, #take your kids. I thought a few thousand people might commiserate. It got 3 million views in 24 hours. The comment section exploded. People called Mom abusive, said I should go no contact. offered to mail Ava a new teddy. Some criticized me for filming her, but most understood that documentation saves lives and sanity. Mom found out the next evening when a friend from church sent her the link. She called, voice trembling with rage. "Take it down! You're humiliating me!" I stayed calm. "I will, under these conditions. 1, you publicly retract your lies about me abandoning the kids. 2, you apologize to me and to them. 3, you agree to contact a social worker tomorrow to arrange proper support." She gasped like I'd slapped her. "You're blackmailing your own mother." "No," I replied. "I'm setting boundaries. You can accept them, or I keep the video up." She hung up. 10 minutes later, she texted, "You'll regret this. Classic." That night, I sent the entire unedited video plus 8 months of harassing texts to a lawyer friend. She helped me draft a cease and desist and a petition for a no-contact order. Meanwhile, I notified CPS anonymously that 3 minors were living with a woman who physically grabbed people in anger and left kids unsupervised while she ranted on Facebook. I gave them timestamps, addresses, everything. CPS acted fast, especially after neighbors corroborated Mom's meltdowns. They visited her, found the house a mess, fridge nearly empty, medication bottles unsecured. They opened a case. Within 72 hours, the kids were placed with their paternal grandmother in another state, someone who'd been begging for custody but didn't know how bad things had gotten because Mom blocked her on social media. The grandmother drove overnight to sign paperwork. The kids left crying, but at least they left together toward a stable home. Mom's reaction? She tried to bar the CPS worker from entering, then collapsed sobbing when they left with the children. She called me 30 times that night. I didn't answer. The next morning, the court granted a temporary restraining order against her contacting me. Officers served it while she was posting another "Pray for me" status. The fallout ripped through the family tree like a chainsaw. Half our relatives unfriended me. The other half messaged privately thanking me for exposing the truth. My favorite aunt sent a cheesecake and a note saying, "You broke the cycle." That should feel triumphant, right? Honestly, it felt like staring at a burned cornerstone of a house you never wanted to live in again. Relief, yes, but also grief for what could have been. 2 weeks later, Melissa finally called, from a prepaid phone in Arizona. She was furious I'd ruined her mom's life. I told her I'd gladly ruin any life that endangered her kids and suggested she sign over permanent guardianship so they'd have stability. She told me to choke and hung up. Haven't heard from her since. CPS keeps me updated because I'm listed as emergency contact number 2 for the kids. Their grandmother put me there. They're adjusting. Therapy, routines, Lego sets. Ava sleeps with a new teddy bear sent by a stranger on TikTok. As for Mom, she's lawyer shopping to sue me for defamation. My attorney isn't worried. Truth is a defense. She wants me to take the video down, but every time she threatens, views spike, and solidarity donations pour into a fund for the kids' college. Last I checked, we'd hit $18,000. I deactivated comments on the post last night because I finally felt done. Not forgiving, not forgetting, just done. If you're still reading, I guess you want the details that didn't fit into a 10-minute viral clip. Buckle up. My family's dysfunction is the kind that makes therapists lick their lips and reach for fresh notepads. I can't promise chronological order because trauma memory is a weird mosaic, but I'll try to lay it out the way it unfolded in my head during those sleepless nights after the restraining order was served. Let's rewind to childhood. Mom wasn't always the villain. When I was 6 and Melissa was 4, She tried hard. Homemade Halloween costumes, packed lunches with handwritten notes, the whole suburban dream. Then Dad got sick. Pancreatic cancer devoured him in 9 brutal months. Hospice came, church ladies delivered casseroles, and our house took on that permanent candle and bleach smell. After the funeral, Mom checked out emotionally and never came back. She functioned, paid bills, signed report cards, but her eyes glazed over like she was watching life from the wrong side of aquarium glass. That's also when she discovered the narcotic power of martyrdom. Neighbors praised her for holding the family together, and she mainlined that praise the way some people mainline vodka. The problem with public sympathy is you need a constant supply of suffering to earn it. Melissa and I became props in her one-woman tragedy. If we played quietly, she sighed and said we were too withdrawn. If we argued, she'd drag us to church counseling and lament that she was at her wit's end. Her currency was crisis, and she was always broke. I learned early that the only safe strategy was competence. I cooked, vacuumed, babysat Melissa, and kept my report cards perfect. Mom bragged to anyone who'd listen that I was so mature, but the praise always came with a price tag. Extra chores, skipped birthday parties, missed sleepovers because your sister needs you. When I argued, she'd clutch her chest and wail that I was ungrateful, just like Dad warned her I'd be. For the record, Dad never said that. He died telling me to look after Mom, which was vague enough for her to weaponize forever. Melissa reacted the opposite way. She rebelled, seeking Mom's attention through chaos, sneaking out, bad grades, dating guys twice her age. Predictably, I was sent to drag her home, clean up the aftermath, and make excuses to teachers. That dynamic calcified. I was responsible, she was reckless, and Mom's identity as long-suffering single mother stayed intact. Fast forward to my 20s. I became a paramedic partly because saving strangers felt easier than saving my own family. The adrenaline, the clear protocols, the moment-to-moment certainty of purpose, it was intoxicating. At home, boundaries were blurry and debt-colored. In the ambulance, a bleeding artery is a problem with a known solution. Clamp it, transfuse, transport. When you succeed, the patient thanks you or at least stays alive long enough for someone else to thank you. There's closure. Meanwhile, Melissa's tornado life intensified. Her first kid, Ava, actually arrived on the night of my graduation from Medic Academy. Mom called me during the ceremony. "Your sister's water broke. Get to the hospital now." I skipped my own celebration and drove 2 hours in dress blues to cut the cord because the baby's father bolted as soon as contractions started. The nurses thought it was sweet. I felt like a placeholder groom in a photo booth. By the time Jaden was born, Melissa had moved back home, and my old bedroom was a nursery. Mom turned the living room into a makeshift Montessori corner full of primary-colored plastic. She posted collages captioned, "3 generations under one roof, blessed." But in private, she complained endlessly about money and diapers. She'd call me at 3 a.m. after my shift and sob that she hadn't slept, then accuse me of abandoning them if I didn't drive over to give her a break. I tried setting limits. I offered to babysit on my days off if she'd agree to let me handle things on my terms. Scheduled times, written instructions, no guilt trips. She laughed like I'd told the funniest joke, then assured me, boundaries are what selfish people use to avoid responsibility. I should have cut ties then, but guilt is a stubborn weed. Dad's last words were a hook in my brain. Look after Mom. He didn't specify how far that duty extended, so I kept stretching it until it frayed. When Zoe arrived, I was 30 and finally saving for a down payment on my own place. Mom panicked. "If you move out, who will help me?" I reminded her Melissa was the actual parent. But Melissa was busy selling essential oils online and flirting with a married coworker. Mom insisted the kids needed a stable male influence, code for me playing weekend dad. In a moment of spine, I said no. She reacted by canceling Thanksgiving dinner so she could post a cryptic Facebook status about betrayal. Family members asked what happened. She told them to pray for me. That pattern kept repeating. Crisis, guilt, temporary compliance, resentment, repeat. Therapy helped me see the pattern, but knowing isn't the same as changing. It wasn't until the Subaru attack that I finally snapped. Now, let's talk about that video. I didn't plan to go viral. My initial idea was to send it to a few relatives as proof so they'd stop believing Mom's narrative. But the more I watched the footage, the angrier I became. Not at her, well, yes, at her, but more at myself for enabling the siege on my peace. Every second of her yelling was a second I'd tolerated in other forms for 3 decades. Posting it publicly felt like ripping duct tape off my mouth. Editing the video was oddly therapeutic. I sat at my cluttered desk, cats curled on my feet, and trimmed dead air, added captions for accessibility, blurred the kids' faces pixel by pixel. Each deliberate action said, "I control this story now." When I hit post, my heartbeat hammered like I'd pushed a defibrillator button. 15 minutes later, it had 1,000 views. 50 minutes later, 10,000. By midnight, 100,000. Strangers dissected my mother's manipulation tactics, like seasoned psychologists on a true crime forum. The CPS call was tougher than expected. Dialing that number meant admitting Mom might actually harm the kids. If not physically, then emotionally. The operator asked factual questions, addresses, dates, behaviors. When she asked, "Do you believe the children are in immediate danger?" I hesitated. Images flashed. Mom grabbing my shoulder, Zoe sobbing, broken mailbox shards glittering on the driveway. I forced the word out. Yes. It tasted like betrayal dipped in bile, but it was the truth. Responsibility sometimes smells like rot before it blooms into relief. CPS's intervention was swift because my city piloted a program that partners social workers with paramedics. One perk of my job. I knew the supervisor, Maria. She called me after the visit, voice steady but kind. "You did the right thing, Ray. The kids weren't safe. We found them sleeping on couch cushions because the box springs were broken. There was mold in the sippy cups, and your mom threatened to make a scene if we didn't leave." Hearing that, I felt both vindicated and nauseous. The emergency placement with their paternal grandmother in Wisconsin was a miracle of bureaucratic speed. Grandma Teresa video called me from the CPS office while hugging all 3 kids. They looked lighter already, like someone had peeled a lead blanket off their small shoulders. Ava whispered, "Thank you." I excused myself to cry in the station bathroom between calls. Serving the restraining order felt surreal. 2 officers, one a rookie I'd helped train, knocked on Mom's door. She answered in a bathrobe, hair in foam curlers, face puffy from tears. I watched from a distance, legally required to stay 75 feet away during service. Her gaze found me across the cul-de-sac. For a second, I read pure bewilderment, as if she'd suddenly realized I was a separate person, not an extension of her will. Then came the rage. She lunged, but the officers blocked her. Papers were shoved into her hands. She crumpled them and screamed that I'd signed a pact with Satan. Even from across the road, I could hear neighbors' curtains twitch. Family chat meltdown. Oh boy. You'd think adults could process nuanced truths, but nope. Aunt Linda posted a meme about honor thy mother, accompanied by prayer emojis. Cousin Derek screen recorded my TikTok and sent it to the group with the caption, "Ray airing dirty laundry, SMH." I replied with 3 simple sentences. Mom endangered the kids. I provided evidence. End of discussion. Then I left the group. Immediate texts. Coward. Come explain yourself. I muted them all. The silence felt like diving into a cool lake after running a fever. Offline consequences snowballed. Mom's church asked her to step down from organizing the annual charity bake sale pending personal matters. Her best friend unfriended her. Local gossip pages speculated about CPS vans on her street. She responded by posting Bible verses about persecution. I didn't engage, but I documented everything for my lawyer. Speaking of the lawyer, let's call her Sheila. She is a weaponized cherub in a navy pantsuit. She filed cease and desist letters to relatives who continued to defame me publicly. She drafted a civil harassment suit just in case Mom violated the restraining order. Sheila also contacted TikTok's trust and safety team preemptively, ensuring the video stayed within community guidelines. That preemptive strike meant Mom's future mass report attempts bounced like spitballs off a tank. Money blew up too. Strangers asked how to help the kids. I consulted Sheila about setting up a trust, and she recommended a 529 plan with Grandma Teresa as primary custodian. We created a transparent donation portal through a reputable nonprofit. Contributions poured in from nurses who'd seen too many neglected kids, from aging millennials estranged from toxic parents, even from a few minor influencers chasing karma. I promised every donor quarterly updates through the nonprofit's accountant. Accountability matters when you're handling other people's hope. Right around this time, burnout sucker punched me. One morning I started IV lines on a chest pain patient and realized my hands were shaking uncontrollably. My partner noticed and quietly took over. Back at the station, I sat in the supply room, plastic smell stinging my nose, and fought a panic attack. The combination of work trauma and family drama had cranked my cortisol to 11. I filed for 2 weeks leave, something I'd never done. My supervisor hugged me and said, "About damn time." Therapy intensified. Dr. G guided me through EMDR sessions targeting the guilt webs tangled around Dad's last words. In one visualization, I saw myself as a 10-year-old clutching a burnt-out matchstick labeled duty. Adult me handed kid me a new word etched on a smooth river stone: choice. It sounds hokey, but I felt something unclench deep inside. I cried so hard I hiccuped. Healing isn't linear, but sometimes it gifts you a moment of clarity sharp as a scalpel. With time off, I tackled practical tasks. I replaced the mailbox. I converted my spare room into an actual guest bedroom instead of a storage graveyard. Part of me feared this signaled I was preparing for the kids to return, but Dr. G reframed it. You're making space for healthy possibilities, not obligations. Fair point. One unexpected side quest. The post office delivered a bulging envelope from an unknown sender. Inside were photocopies of Mom's journals. Apparently she'd lent them to a church friend for memoir advice. And the friend, horrified by passages blaming me for Dad's death, sent them anonymously to warn me. Reading them was like spelunking in toxic sludge. She wrote, "Ray will never have children because he's too selfish to see that raising a family is God's calling." Another gem. Sometimes I think the only reason the Lord took my husband was to test my endurance, and Ray is failing that test. I scanned them into the cloud and mailed the originals to Sheila. Evidence, evidence, evidence. Meanwhile, the kids flourished. Teresa texted photos of Ava riding a bike without training wheels, Jaden building a pillow fort, Zoe smearing finger paint on paper instead of walls. They attended a small public school that offered free counseling for kids from disrupted homes. Teachers emailed glowing reports. Ava joined Girl Scouts. Jaden started speech therapy and stopped lisping. Zoe learned to say a perfectly enunciated no to strangers, a power I didn't master until my 30s. Mom was not invited to Wisconsin. She petitioned for visitation. The court denied it pending psychiatric evaluation. She refused the evaluation on principle, claiming God was her therapist. Visitation denied. Every rejection fueled her persecution narrative. Friends drifted away. Isolation echoed back to her, but she wouldn't change course. The martyr costume is hard to take off when you've worn it so long it fused to the skin. Around month 3 post-meltdown, I got a certified letter. Mom had listed me as the executor of her will years ago and now declared me disinherited for acts of cruelty. The irony almost dislocated my jaw from laughing. I replied via my lawyer, acknowledging receipt and confirming I never expected an inheritance. The house she owned was mortgaged to the hilt. The only value in her estate was antique porcelain she claimed was cursed if separated. Frankly, I was relieved. No tangled estate to manage later. Instead of further litigation, I wrote a long-form essay pseudonymously for a major online magazine. I focused on systemic failures, how absence of affordable childcare forces grandparents into roles they can't sustain, how social media valorizes martyrhood, how emergency workers witness domestic neglect daily with no resources for follow-up. The piece went semi-viral among mental health circles. It felt like alchemizing personal pain into broader awareness, recycling trauma into fuel for societal change. Comments included tearful thanks from strangers recognizing their own lives. One of the sweetest moments in this entire saga happened during a video call with the kids at Grandma Teresa's. It was Jaden's 6th birthday. They'd baked a dinosaur-shaped cake. Ava held the phone while Zoe sang off-key. Jaden leaned in and asked, "Uncle Ray, are you safe now?" The question sucker-punched me. I realized my safety, or lack of it, had been visible to them all along, even when I thought I hid the stress. I answered honestly, "Yeah, buddy, I'm safe and so are you." His grin stretched icing across his cheeks. I mailed him a book about space exploration, something Dad once read to me. Inside I wrote, "Curiosity is bigger than fear." Grandma Teresa texted later that Jaden insisted on sleeping with the book under his pillow. Generational change happens in small gestures as much as in big court orders. Speaking of court, the final hearing to extend the restraining order arrived at the 1-year mark. I testified calmly, laying out Mom's pattern of harassment. She represented herself. Her lawyers kept quitting after she refused to follow advice. She tried to cross-examine me, launched into a monologue about biblical filial duty, and the judge cut her off. Order extended 5 more years. Outside the courthouse, she shouted, "You'll die alone!" I silently wished her the healing she refused to seek. After that, I archived every text, email, and voicemail in a secure cloud folder and told Sheila I wanted to disengage unless Mom violated the order again. She agreed. Litigation is like quicksand. Sometimes the best move is to stand still until the rescue plank arrives. So where does that leave me? Back in my quiet bungalow with 2 spoiled cats, an herb garden, and the faint hum of boundaries holding firm. The viral video is still up, but muted from my notifications. Donations continue to grow the kids' college funds. Mom remains a specter, blocked on all devices. Her voice relegated to a few terabytes of legal evidence I hope never to need. Do I miss her? The idea of her, maybe. The mom who sewed homemade costumes when I was 6. But nostalgia is a filter that smooths out the cracks in foundation walls. Reality is more complicated. She changed, or maybe revealed who she always was once Dad died. Forgiveness might come someday, but reconciliation requires 2 willing parties, and she's still armed with blame and Bible verses instead of accountability. In therapy, we talk about earned peace. It's not the serene calm you get from yoga and scented candles. It's the ragged, hard-won quiet that follows a storm you survived by clawing at debris. My house feels like that now. Some nights I sit on the porch, watch fireflies buzz over tomato vines, and feel an unfamiliar lightness. It's not happiness exactly, but the absence of dread, which to someone raised on perpetual crisis feels revolutionary. I used to think revenge meant making the other person hurt as much as they hurt you. I don't believe that anymore. Real revenge, the sustainable kind, is living a life where their weapons no longer work. Mom's arsenal was guilt, obligation, and public shaming. I disarmed her by refusing to play along. So yeah, internet stranger, that's the unabridged saga. If you stumbled here from the original TikTok, or found this post years later archived on some subreddit about family drama, know that the kids are safe. I am safe, and the cycle is broken, at least on my branch of the family tree. If that's not justice, whatever. Throwaway account, because my family knows my main, and if they see this, they'll probably set the comments on fire. I'm a 30-year-old systems engineer in Kyiv, unmarried, currently sipping coffee in the apartment that triggered the most spectacular implosion my relatives have ever staged. People keep DMing to hear the full saga, so here it is, start to finish, with receipts. I wrote it all down partly for catharsis, and partly so my memory can't try to gaslight me later. If you think I'm heartless, the downvote is right there. I lived through it and sleep fine. I need to rewind to 2010 to explain our weird property setup. My dad died of a stroke that year, leaving Mom with half a mortgage on our 3-bedroom in Brovary. My older sister Olena had just quit her 3rd marketing job because her new boyfriend convinced her that real creative souls can't thrive under fluorescent office lights. I was 22, weeks from graduating, and had already signed an IT support contract that paid peanuts but offered quick promotion. When the bank threatened foreclosure, I stepped in. The agreement was simple. I'd cover the mortgage and utilities until Mom got back on her feet. And once the loan was gone, we'd both go on the title to reflect our shares. She kissed my forehead, called me her little savior, and I believed every word. Olena contributed exactly 0 hryvnias during that stretch. She floated from boyfriend to boyfriend, photography phase to pottery phase, occasionally landing paid gigs that evaporated the instant money got mentioned. Mom defended her like a bodyguard, insisting artists bloom late. Whenever creditors called, Olena changed numbers. Mom paid her cell bill because heaven forbid inspiration be interrupted by a disconnected line. I stayed because leaving would torch Mom's finances. My career, meanwhile, leveled up. I jumped companies, moved from support to security, stacked certificates like Lego bricks, and by 28, I had enough saved for my own place. Kyiv prices are brutal, but a friend tipped me off to a new build near the metro, where early buyers got hefty discounts. I drained my savings, pulled a modest loan, and signed for a 2-room unit. No more sharing a bathroom with a sister who treated every surface like a makeup counter. Mom's reaction was complicated. She praised my work ethic, then immediately asked whether I'd consider delaying move-in so Olena could reset her energy away from Brovary's suburbs. I laughed, thinking she was teasing. She didn't laugh back. I moved anyway, and the house in Brovary became our occasional Sunday dinner venue rather than my permanent address. Enter last spring. I'd owned my flat a grand total of 39 hours when Olena announced she was pregnant. The father, Artem, was a sound technician she met while shooting a no-budget music video. They'd been dating 3 months, living partly in his rented studio, partly in Mom's spare room because, to quote Olena, vibrational alignment doesn't respect leases. Mom flipped straight into babushka overdrive, knitting booties, pricing cribs, planning a baby shower before the first ultrasound ink dried. 2 days after the announcement, Mom rang me. No small talk, just, "You will give the apartment to your sister." She laid out her reasoning with the confidence of someone citing scripture. A newborn needed stability, fresh air, a metro line, not a cluttered house full of my father's ghosts. Olena's genius would finally blossom once motherhood centered her. I, a single man who only needed a bed and a desk, could easily find another place or come home to Brovary. She expected me to meet her and a notary that week. I thought the line cut. When I realized she was serious, I said something like, "Absolutely not. This is my home." Mom called me cold. I reminded her I'd just spent 8 years propping up her mortgage. She hung up. I figured the storm would pass. It didn't. Olena posted daily belly selfies in the family group chat, with captions like, "Counting on my village." Artem dropped passive-aggressive voice notes about real men protecting expecting women. I muted them all and piled into overtime, because servers throwing tantrums don't fling cake. Yes, cake. We've reached the pastry point. Mom's 62nd birthday landed 1 month after that phone call. Against my gut, I went, mainly because Grandma would be there, and she worries if I skip things. I bought Mom an engraved locket with Dad's initials, thinking sentiment might thaw her. The house was buzzing, balloons, streamers reading, "World's Best Granny," although the baby was still a lima bean. A 2-tier sponge cake dominated the table, frosted pink and blue in case the gender reveal later required either hue. 10 minutes in, Olena clinked a fork against a glass. "Big news," she said, resting a hand on her barely there bump. "Mom solved our housing problem. My amazing brother is giving us his apartment." Guests applauded like they were at a televised proposal. Mom looked at me, waiting for the grand yes. I just said, "No, I'm not." Silence. A spoon clattered to a plate. Mom's face tightened, then, swift as yanking off a bandage, she sliced a square of that cake and flung it across the table. It hit my chest, cream sliding into my pocket. Someone gasped. Someone laughed. I smelled sugar and betrayal. Mom hissed, "After everything I sacrificed for you, this is how you thank me?" I stood, placed the locket box on the table untouched, and walked out. Behind me, she shouted that I was dead to her. I believed her. During the trolley ride home, frosting hardened like plaster. People stared. I stared back until they looked away. Vengeance didn't bloom instantly. I spent the night scrubbing sugar from fabric, replaying old memories that suddenly felt weaponized. Mom skipping my graduation because Olena had an art show. Mom forgetting my birthday, yet remembering to post Olena's every year. By dawn, I accepted a truth. She viewed me as a resource, not a son. Resources can be withdrawn. First step, consult an attorney. The family house wasn't just hers. She'd insisted my name join the deed to recognize my payments. That generosity gave me leverage. Under Ukrainian law, a co-owner can sell their share. But since half a house isn't a lettuce head you can slice and bag, the usual route is forcing a partition sale through court. It's considered a draconian move, so judges push mediation first. I met lawyer Danilo on Monday. He listened, read the deed copies, and asked if I was emotionally ready for scorched earth. Once we file, Christmas will never taste the same, he warned. I told him Christmas already tasted like stale sugar paste. We drafted a formal proposal. Mom could buy my half at fair market value or consent to sale and split proceeds. I even offered a 20% family discount. He couriered the letter. She ignored it. 60 days later, we filed. Summons arrived. Within hours, my phone lit up. Mom's shrieking voicemail, Olena's wall of texts accusing me of violence against an unborn child, Artem threatening to pull up. To this day, I don't know where. I documented everything. Court sessions stretched through spring. Mom argued heritage, emotional value, intangible cultural inheritance. My spreadsheets showed mortgage transfers, utility receipts, property tax stubs in my name. Judge ruled for partition sale. Mom sobbed in the hallway, calling the verdict patriarchal despite a female judge delivering it. Listing the house required cooperation she refused to give. She denied photographers entry, barricaded doors, left laundry hanging everywhere, turned up the thermostat so visitors sweated and fled. Each stunt earned her a warning. Repeated stunts earned fines. Danilo advised patience. Every sabotage strengthened our case to accelerate sale. While chaos brewed, my own life moved. I upgraded the apartment's internet, adopted a rescue cat named Bite, started dating a project manager, Yana, who loved that my drama came with no ex-wives, only flying dessert. Mom emailed Yana directly once, begging her to talk sense into me. Yana forwarded it to me with a single line. "Your mother is intense." We laughed, then blocked her. Summer arrived and with it a housing boom. 3 offers hit within 2 weeks, all above asking. The highest came from a dentist couple with a toddler who demanded vacant possession by October. Mom gambled that no one would yank a pregnant woman and her widowed mother onto the street. She refused to sign. The buyers threatened to sue. The court gave her 30 days to vacate, or bailiffs would enforce. She stalled until day 29, then appealed to me directly, sobbing on my doorstep that Olena was 8 months along and could go into labor any minute. I asked if she remembered throwing cake at me. She said she was expressing passionate disappointment. I said I was expressing property rights. She left cursing me in 2 languages. September became a montage of frantic moving attempts. Mom tried renting storage but maxed her credit card. She sold Dad's workshop tools for pennies to pay a moving van deposit, then refused to release the last payment, so the movers dumped furniture on the pavement and drove off. Neighbors filmed. Someone set the footage to circus music and uploaded it. I saw it on TikTok before a friend realized that red-faced woman was my mom. Closing day, I didn't show. I sat at my desk, signed digital forms, and watched the balance hit my account. Half the sale minus fees, still more money than I'd ever held at once. I transferred a chunk to pay off my apartment loan, booked soundproofing installation, and bought Bite the fancy automatic feeder I'd been eyeing. Mom, Olena, and Artem siated in a furnished 2-bedroom rental near the ring road. Online, they painted it as a cozy new chapter. Offline, Grandma told me Mom cried nightly, blaming me for everything from stretch marks to Ukraine's inflation. Grandma asked if I'd at least send flowers when the baby arrived. I said no. I suggested therapy. She sighed like old people do when reminded the world is colder than they hoped. Marco was born on December 12th, healthy and loud. I learned his name from Facebook tags, not family calls. Olena posted a photo of him swaddled in a neon sun green blanket. The caption said, "Love conquers selfishness." Comments split between heart emojis and relatives psychoanalyzing me. I muted the thread and went back to coding. People online love tidy moral math, so they keep asking, "Do I feel guilty?" Honestly, no. Guilt implies wrongdoing, and I can't locate the wrong. I enforced a legal right. I didn't hack their bank, didn't sabotage their jobs, didn't leak Artem's unpaid parking tickets even though I knew about them. I just refused to be a doormat one more time and used the only leverage I had to prove my point. If a cake is a weapon, a deed can be a shield. Financially, I'm better off than I dared hope. After renovations, I still had enough left to start a conservative investment portfolio. I'd grown up equating stock tickers with gambling, but a colleague walked me through index funds, and suddenly future me looked secure instead of hypothetical. Byte now has a climbing wall because why not? Yana moved in last month. She jokes that a man who outmaneuvered his mother's guilt arsenal can handle assembling IKEA shelves without drama. She isn't wrong. The parts that hurt aren't what you'd expect. It's not the birthday scene replaying. That's numbed into dark comedy. What stings is how fragile the good memories feel now, like they could crumble if I pressed too hard. I used to cherish Sunday mornings when Mom made Serniki and whistled old folk songs. Now I wonder if she was rehearsing lines to ask for favors. Therapy helps. I started weekly sessions after lawyering up. The therapist, Victoria, says resentment is a debt that compounds. The only cure is deciding the loan is uncollectible. I'm not there yet, but interest is down. Some friends claim I went nuclear instead of negotiating. They forget I tried negotiation twice, once before buying the flat, and once in the formal letter. Nuclear is the last button. I pressed it after Mom fired pastry artillery at my chest. The chain of escalation is visible to anyone willing to scroll. Other friends secretly cheer. One, whose parents treat his paycheck as communal property, said my story felt like watching the Death Star explode. I reminded him the rebels lost people to get there. My casualty list includes what little family trust I still had. But trust without respect isn't trust. It's hope wearing noise-canceling headphones. Random strangers tell me to forgive because family is everything. That line always comes from people whose family mistakes involve overcooked turkey, not homelessness threats. Forgiveness can't be commanded like a light switch. It's built on acknowledgement of harm. Mom still believes she did nothing wrong except love imperfectly. That's not a foundation I can build on. Do I miss them? Sometimes. When Marco giggles in a clip Grandpa sent, I feel a tug. I imagine teaching him Python basics, showing him how to solder Raspberry Pi boards like Grandpa taught me. Then I remember Olena's last voicemail, calling me a deadbeat uncle who abandoned blood for bricks, and the tug snaps. Maybe we'll reconcile when boundaries are respected. Maybe pigs will code in COBOL. Either scenario seems equally probable right now. Grandma's health is slipping. I visit her monthly, meet her outside her building so Mom can't ambush me. We eat pastries because life's irony has a sense of humor. She tells me Dad would have been proud. He'd also have knocked heads together before it escalated. I think Dad would have told Mom to stop treating me as an automatic bailout, but the dead can't testify. Sometimes late at night, I replay the moment the cake hit me. In slow motion, the frosting arcs through lamplight, a sugary comet foreshadowing metamorphosis. Had Mom chosen words instead of confection, maybe we'd still share Sunday coffee. But if she hadn't thrown it, I might have remained her reliable little firefighter forever, dousing each crisis while my life smoldered unnoticed. So I thank that stupid cake. It marked the exact second I prioritized myself. Bite just climbed into my lap, purring like a tiny generator. Yana's at the gym. The soundproofing guys finished yesterday, and tomorrow we leave for a week in the Carpathians, my first real vacation in years. I'm closing this tab and the chapter with it. If you're reading because you feel trapped in a guilt maze, consider this permission to search for the exit. Yes, you'll lose some scenery, but the fresh air outside is worth it. Just watch out for flying desserts. That's the whole story, unfiltered, preserved in digital stone so my brain can't sweeten it later. Comments are open. I don't promise to reply, but I will read, especially if you have cat treat suggestions. Thanks for listening. Edit. Reddit keeps asking for numbers, so here's the rough breakdown. Legal fees. Danilo's flat retainer was 25,000 hryvnias, plus hourly time, landing at 68 total. Court filings and service added 12. Pricey, but cheaper than footing Brovary bills forever. Sale. The house went for $273,000. After commission and taxes, we each got about $123,000. Mom calls it blood money. I call it restitution. I cleared my apartment loan, paid for renovations and Bite's vet spree, took Yana to Rome, and parked the rest in index funds. Ukrainian ETFs exist if you dig. Olena isn't broke. She blew her share on a leased SUV and a gigantic TV, then tried reselling the TV when rent and diapers collided. Actions meet consequences. Grandma's pension is tiny, so I quietly pay her utilities. Victoria says that's enabling. I say Grandma never threw cake. For anyone dreaming of a holiday reunion, don't. Mom texted, "One day you will be a parent and you will understand." I drafted a reply, deleted it, and blocked her. Silence speaks louder. Unless Olena discovers another visionary soulmate with empty pockets, this saga is finally closed. I'm focusing on work, Bite's war with the laser pointer, and building a life that doesn't require lawyers every time family wants a favor. Stay safe and remember, locks cost less than litigation, but litigation still beats surrender. Since I'm apparently in confession mode, here's one more angle people overlook: the emotional bill. 8 months of litigation meant postponing vacations, skipping gym sessions, and watching every interaction with Grandma in case it became courtroom ammunition. Stress ate my sleep. I woke at 3 a.m., convinced bailiffs would mistake my apartment for Mom's and change the locks. I kept a go bag with documents, laptop, and Bite's carrier, just in case. That paranoia eased only after the buyers sent me photos confirming renovation day, proving they really existed and weren't some elaborate scam. Therapy cost another chunk, but it taught me boundaries aren't walls. They're doors with locks you control. I'm learning to open mine for people who knock instead of trying to batter them down. Yana knocks. Friends knock. Bite headbutts, which counts. So if you're reading this while your relatives draft guilt manifestos, tally both ledgers. Money hurts, but time and peace are collateral you may never recover. Make your own math, then act accordingly. And yes, I still love my family. I just refuse to bankroll their bad decisions again. Ever again.